4 days a week, I make the solemn hour-plus change drive from Milwaukee to Whitewater. I was hired to teach writing full-time at Whitewater's University over the summer, which was convenient as I had just finished my PhD and needed a job. The distance between my residence and those far-off classrooms didn't faze me, and I have no intention of moving to make my commute shorter. I like where I live. My wife and child work and go to school across the street from our apartment, and all my friends are only a quick drive away. While their immediacy brings me comfort, I enjoy the long hours spent in a car by myself. It reminds me of how far I've traveled in life. I've been driving since I was a teenager, but I didn't have a vehicular commute before this. My first job was in the house I grew up, grommeting, sewing, and packing Renaissance clothes for my mom's online business. My only commute was up some stairs. In college, I worked a few jobs, but they were all around or near campus. Then I worked in China for 2 years, and I didn't have a car, and the city I lived in was compact, so I just walked or bused to where I needed to be. When I moved back to the States, it was to get my master's degree. Again, I lived by campus and just walked to the classes I taught and took. I'm sure you can guess what happened when I moved to Milwaukee to get my PhD. I am 32 years old, and despite thousands of hours behind the wheel for other reasons, I've never meaningfully traveled to work. The timing of my newfound commute is a bit ironic. A week after I accepted the job, I was hit by a car while walking to the grocery store. I spent most of that week in the hospital with broken bones and a severe brain injury which stole my ability to form memories for a spell. The head trauma gave me a potent vertigo, and I grew nauseous just sitting in a car. For the month after the accident, I couldn't leave my apartment. The thought of sitting in a car made me sick. The university made an exception for me and allowed me to teach the first 2 weeks of the semester online while I, quite literally, found my bearings. The third week arrived all too soon, and I started journeying to the middle of nowhere 4 times a week. My car, a 2006 Volkswagen Jetta, is what you might call a junker, though I wouldn't call it that. I can't defend its reputation. We bought it 4 years ago, and a few months later, while my wife was driving, the muffler just fell off. She has hated the car ever since. One of the speakers cuts in and out, and the back seat houses an unreasonably bulky car seat. The AC broke last year in a way mechanics describe as functionally unfixable. Thank goodness we live in the frigid north, so it's still drivable 9 months out of the year. The Jetta is also always dirty because I don't think I've ever vacuumed out a car in my life. Why do I tell you people my greatest sins? This summer, the ceiling, or at least the fabric glued to it, fell down. It's currently held up by thumbtacks, though I have purchased some car adhesive to patch that up eventually. I know it's incredibly foolish to say this next thing in a public venue, but the lock on the driver's side door broke. The Jetta isn't valuable enough to replace it, though. She has been rummaged through a few times, but no one has taken anything. Not that I'd leave anything in there worth stealing. You may think I'm complaining about my shit car, but I kid you not. I have owned 7 cars in my life, and this is my favorite of the bunch. It handles quite well, is surprisingly quiet for a car with an unprofessionally replaced muffler, and is comfortable to sit in for the long hours I drive each week. I love this car, and I'll be sad when that verb inevitably transitions to the past tense. Of course, the first leg of my journey is through the Milwaukee area. I head to the highway and venture west with hundreds of other commuters making way toward their place of employment. When I took the job, my wife assured me that traffic wouldn't be so bad since most people head into the city for work, but both sides of the highway seem equally busy to me. For folks with rural backgrounds, inner city traffic is a boogeyman. We cruise down empty 2-lane roads with little care, but a full freeway is a place of danger. My dad, who's been driving for almost 50 years, who drove an hour to work for decades, who drove 3 to 4 hours to pick us up every other weekend when my parents divorced, won't come visit us because he refuses to travel to or near any city because the presumed threat of our large interchanges proves too powerful. Perhaps our country-dwelling fears aren't unfounded. The week I moved to Milwaukee, on the exact stretch of road I now drive down every day, I got into an accident. It was raining, the car in front of me slammed on their brakes, my car slid, and I thought I'd rear-end them if I didn't swap lanes. So I did, and I merged into the path of another vehicle. Everyone was okay, though my car was totaled. The trauma of the accident made me fear all highways in the Milwaukee area for the next 5 years. You'd be surprised at the many places I didn't go because I knew I'd wander toward the same path I wrecked my great-grandma's hand-me-down Buick. I thought about that accident every time I drove by that area, until now, since my daily double-cross has smoothed away the pain of that memory. A few miles after my reminder of a wreck, I pass American Family Field. 13 years ago, when it had the much better name Miller Park, I traveled with 4 or 5 friends 4 or 5 hours to see the hometown Brewers lose to the Arizona Diamondbacks. We all made signs for the occasion. We hooted and hollered. On the way back, we stopped for ice cream. That was the first time I ever commuted to Milwaukee, and to this day, it's the only time I've been to a Brewers game. Every summer, I tell myself I'll go to another, and every summer, I let myself down. In those dreary fall and winter months of teaching people to write, no games are held, so that empty stadium I pass only serves as a reminder of empty promises I've made to myself. After a huge interchange, which signals to me I've left Milwaukee for the suburbs, I pass by Brookfield, one of said suburbs. I've never been to Brookfield. I'm sure it's a perfectly fine place, but all I know of the city is its blimp-esque freeway-side water tower with the word Brookfield displayed in a prominent vertical typeset. It reminds me of a water tower in view of the Burger King in Plover, Wisconsin. My mom dropped me off to see my dad at that restaurant/gas station every other weekend for almost a decade. Today, I associate water towers with those strange liminal spaces between being with my mom and being with my dad. 2 completely different worlds I had to constantly reconcile inside myself. Not unlike trying to reconcile the me of Milwaukee, a mother, an artist, a friend, with the me of Whitewater, a professional, a colleague, a teacher. Whoever the real Evelyn is, she's not in either. She's somewhere in between, like I am when I pass the Brookfield water tower. I get out of the burbs and the highway opens up. One stop before my usual exit, number 285, is exit 287, where I get off once every week or two to stop at Burger King. I guess that restaurant is just in my blood. In reality, it's one of the only fast food places that serves a decent vegetarian sandwich, but the service at Milwaukee's establishments is so horrid I refuse to gamble my time at them. So the rural Delafield BK is the only place I'll eat an impossible Whopper. Ironically, when my parents met up to exchange me and my brother at the Burger King in Plover, my dad rarely took us there. If we stopped for fast food at all, it was at the McDonald's down the street. Still, I can't help but connect these fast food chains with my parents. My dad and the Burger King I'll forever remember as the halfway point between my 2 homes. My mom and McDonald's, where she was a one-time taste tester who hauled my brother and I across the entire Midwest to evaluate French fries from rural chain restaurants. In both cases, it's not Big Macs or Whoppers that matter. It's the fact that with both parents I found myself on the road, like I am now, and it's only these frail similarities, which repeat without fault in every town across America, where I felt consistency during my geographically sporadic and ill-defined youth. Off exit 285 toward downtown Delafield, I head in the opposite direction onto the beautiful Kettle Moraine Scenic Drive. Here, I trade the partitioned 4-lane highway of the city for the 2-lane trails of my youth, and I'm all the happier for it. Now, instead of Burger Kings, water towers, and baseball fields, I pass trees and animal corpses. Not a corporate logo in sight. Despite the upticking distance from my literal home of 5 years, I feel more at home along these dusty county roads. When I lived here, or somewhere like here, amongst farms, fences, woods, and worms, I struggled to break free from their monotonous pace of life. I yearned to be anywhere but there. Yet, you can never quite escape yourself. I've lived in distant nations and concrete cities, but returning to lonely blacktop carved between forests activates that strange part of me, turns me toward a nugget of unrealized truth. No matter how far I get from home, I'll always be a country girl. To be clear, I don't like country music. I abhor guns, despite one being the only keepsake I ever received from my biological father. The silence of nights among fields drives me mad. Big trucks disgust me. I'm not handy or hands-on with animals or tools. I have no pride for my hometown. I find casserole a mediocre cuisine. I don't fish. I don't hunt. I don't like swimming in murky lakes, and I definitely do not want to move to a small town. Everything we associate with rural folks is at odds with me. So how can I call myself a country girl? I don't know. But the answer lies on any road between two villages with a population less than an apartment building, because it's there, in that endless space between insignificant places, that I find myself, a creature just as insignificant and endless as they. I memorized the route to my job in a week because I wanted to experience these country roads unmediated by virtual maps and bodiless voices. That's how my dad did it when we drove across the state. Something which always amazed me, even if I have to reckon today that such routes aren't too difficult to figure out. I take a few right turns and I arrive at my destination. Even in these barren landscapes, I find more reminders though of where I'm from. On Tuesday and Thursday mornings at 8:45 a.m., I see an elderly woman bundled head to toe, power walking. She brings to mind my grandma and grandpa, two people I deeply admire who go for a walk every morning. I look forward to seeing this walker every week, but to her, I'm just another car passing by. I should call my living grandparents more often. I'll miss them when they're gone. The only person I've called while driving this route is my father. He didn't pick up. About 5 miles after the power walker, I pass a house with a giant 2024 Trump flag, which promises the sequel. It reminds me of Dad, who has grown more cynical and political over the years. When I cross this fascist-defined residence, not the first of its kind on the route, I'm reminded my home grows hostile toward me. I'm unsure if this place is even safe, as a trans woman who only passes if she keeps her mouth shut, and as you can guess, I talk too much. My dad, who claimed to hate politics for the first 25 years of my life, now calls us alphabet people. I wonder how many more my dads are out there, and how many have violent intent. It only takes one person to hurt me, so as I drive past these transphobic dog whistles, I feel my sense of self-preservation perk up to warn me. Don't let your guard down. But I don't listen. I can't live like that, fearing my place of origin, refusing to let myself go back or let these places enter me. The truth is, you can't ever see how far you've gone while you're going. It's only on the return trip that you realize the distance you traveled. It's here on these county roads where I grew up that I connect to the length and width of my own personal journey, sense the many changes in myself and the world around me, and start to make sense of it all. That feeling is worth the vulnerability of the road and the danger of being transgender in God's country. Between the Trumper and my classroom are a small town I fill up on gas and a plethora of good views. These places pass quickly, but remind me of the beauties of rural life, so easy to ignore when you've never lived without them. Soon, I pull up to the university, a strangely familiar school in a sea of more familiar fields. It is where I'm going, and soon, where I went. I wonder, what does it mean to travel from one place to another? Is it to cross physical space? Leap cultural lines? Fall down memory lane? Perhaps to move from one environment to another is to discover oneself. I don't know. The journey to find yourself is endless, and you'll never have enough time to reach its destination. In my short hour between these places, I get the feeling nothing's moved, but everything's changed, and I have too. I just hope I can keep steering long enough to notice it as I pass.